Alright guys, welcome to Math 0314, lesson 5.3. We're going to add and subtract rational expressions. And the way I'd like to start this off is discussing how do we add fractions. Well, if the denominators match up, right, all we have to do to add fractions is simply add the numerators. So this is the same thing as saying 1 plus 3 over 8, which is 4 over 8, which reduces to 1/2. So, if you see in example 2, the denominators match, all we have to do is add the numerators. So this is just simply 5x plus 3 over 2x minus 1. There's nothing else really to it. Notice the denominators stay the same, okay? We're just simply adding the numerators, and because there's nothing else I can really do here, I'm done with the problem. When we subtract, it's the same thing. The only thing we have to realize is that when I say x plus 12 here, that is a quantity x plus 12. So when it's all over x minus 4, I do have to put it in parentheses, which I hope you see means that we have to distribute. So this leaves me with x squared minus x minus 12 over x minus 4. Now, from here, because we have a trinomial, we should attempt to try to factor the trinomial. So not every trinomial is factorable. Keep that in mind as well, though. So I rewrote it as x and x because x times x is x squared. I look at the back and I see 12, and I'm going to think, what times what is 12? 4 times 3. And I want it such that when I subtract, I get a negative 1. So I want negative 4 plus 3, because 4 minus 3 is 1, but we want the bigger value to be negative. Okay? We also notice in this situation that x minus 4's divide out, and we're left with just x plus 3. Now, keep in mind in each of these situations, we, at least in the last two, we have to say to the effect, for example here, that x technically does not equal to 1 over 2. Because, hopefully you see why, because if you plug in 1/2, then half of 2 is 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. And the same thing is true here. X cannot be equal to 4. So these are stipulations that we have to insert when we deal with these problems, though for the rest of these, I'm not really going to focus in on that. Now, when I look at number 4, we see we have a problem here because 7b and b squared do not match up exactly. We need to have a b squared here, so I'm going to need to multiply top and bottom by b over b. In much the same way, if we had fractions like 1/3 plus 1/2, I would have to multiply by 2 over 2 in order to get the denominator to match, and here 3 over 3. So we have to create a situation where the bottoms would match. So, or the denominators would match. So, if that's true for 7b needs a b squared, then what does b squared need? Well, b squared needs a 7. So we'll multiply by 7 over 7. So this leaves me with 3b plus 4 times 7 is 28. And this is all going to be over the bottoms, which are 7b squared. Cleaning this up, we're going to get, we can factor out, well, I wanted to factor out a 3, but I can't. That is it. I actually can't clean it up. That's as far as we can go. And there's our answer. So in the rest of this section, we're going to have to get the denominators to match up. So let's look at the next one. So we need to get these to match up, but before you start trying to match things up, let's try to factor these. So we've seen 12 before. We know that's going to be 4 and 3. But 4 and 3 is actually not going to work, because 4 and 3 is going to give me 1 in the middle, or 7. That's not going to give me 4. So let's try 6 and 2, because 6 minus 2 is 12. All right. On this side, we can factor out a 2, and we're left with t plus 6. Okay. So now we have it. So we have here, I don't need to look at this, I don't need to look at this anymore. So in order to get the denominators to match, they both have a t plus 6, which is great. This has a t minus 2, but it lacks a times 2. So we're going to multiply top and bottom by 2 over 2. Over on this side, it has obviously a t plus 6. It does not have a t minus 2, so this is going to be multiplied by t minus 2 on the top and the bottom. So this is going to leave me with 2 parentheses 3t minus 2 minus 5 parentheses t minus 2 all over the entire denominator here or here, however you want to write it. I'm going to rewrite it as 2 times the quantity t plus 6 times t minus 2. And from here, we just clean it up. So we'll distribute. So this is going to give me 6t minus 4. Here we're going to distribute. Now be careful, it's a negative 5, so this is negative 5t plus 10. And the bottom, you don't need to clean this up in any capacity. It's better actually to leave it as such, because it could very well be that something on the top, something in the numerator, will cancel out with the denominator. So, moving right along, we can put our t's together. So 6t minus 5t is going to give me just t. And we can put the negative 4 and the 10 together, which is going to give me plus 6. Oh, look at that there. The t plus 6 on the numerator and the t plus 6 in the denominator match. This is fantastic. These divide out. Remember, when they divide out, it's just 1, so the top is just 1 over t. 2 times t minus 2. Now, if you wanted to write it as 1 over 2t minus 4, that would be acceptable as well. And you may see it either or. Either way is a viable answer choice. So, let's keep going. The next one. So here, the first question you should be asking yourself is what is probably the best way to approach this. This is a little different because we're adding 3 different terms or 3 different values. What you should have thought is that x squared plus 3x can be factored to x times x plus 3. So notice that you have an x here and x plus 3. So I'm actually going to try to get the denominator here to be x times x plus 3. So if this has an x, it needs an x plus 3. And if this has an x plus 3, it's going to need an x. So what does that leave me with? Let's say it leaves us with 2 times the quantity x plus 3 plus x squared, x times x is x squared, minus, and now note I'm not going to change anything here, but this is technically in parentheses. So quantity 3x plus 18. And the denominator, remember the goal was to get the denominator to be x times x plus 3. Alright? So all I need to do now is clean this up. So we'll distribute. So this is going to be 2x plus 6 plus x squared. We have to distribute the negative. And this is why it's super important to realize this is a quantity. Because if you don't put it in there, you'll end up missing the question. We get negative 3x minus 18. Again, do not clean up the bottom. Leave it as x times x plus 3. If there's a factor that they share in common, it will emerge. So next up, we're going to clean this up. There's only one x squared term. We usually like to write the x squared term first. We have 2x minus 3x, which gives me negative x. And then we have plus 6 minus 18, which is negative 12. It's our old friend, the factors of 12. We know are 4 and 3. So this is going to break down to x minus 4, x plus 3. Notice minus 4 because we have minus 4 plus 3 is negative 1. And the denominator is x over x plus 3. Once again, we see something cancels out. So we go ahead and cancel out the x plus 3. And that leaves me with my final answer, which is x minus 4 over x. So the goal here is to find a common denominator. And the easiest way to find that is first to factor out. So even if it's 3 terms, not too bad. All right, on this situation, this is different in the sense that you have a negative here. But remember, if I write negative 1/2, or if I write negative 1 over 2, or if I write 1 over negative 2, these are all the same. So what that means is in this problem, I really have 6 over w minus negative 4 over w, which is just going to leave me with negative becomes a positive 6 plus 4 over w, or simply 10 over w. So don't let the denominator being negative throw you off. You can just tack it off to the side and you have two negatives. Two negatives become a positive. All right. Now here, this is a different situation that we've seen before. We have x minus w and y. I said x minus w. My bad. X minus y. And then we have y minus x. Now, from previous videos, we know that anytime we see y minus x and x minus w, if I want them to match, all I have to do is if I make, let's say this one here, negative, they will match. So anytime you have values that would match, if you would just switch the position and one of them is negative, then you just change everything to a negative and we have it to work. We can get it to work. So from here, clean this up a little bit. From here, since the denominators match, I can rewrite this as x squared minus y squared over x minus y. Now I hope that you're not content with this. We've seen x squared minus y squared many times in this course. And we see that that breaks down to x plus y, x minus y. In other words, it is the difference of squares. In other words, anytime you can take the square root of both terms of a binomial and you have a negative sign in between them, you have the difference of squares. So from here, all I'm going to do is I realize x minus y's are in common. They will divide out, and I'm left with x plus y. And there's my answer. And that, my friends, is it. So, what I hope as you're progressing in this course, you realize what essentially this section is combining everything that you've done before. And if you've kept up with the material and you understand how to do this, these sections should be increasingly easier and easier to do because you're not really learning anything. You're just applying all the strategies that you've learned through this course into a concept. So if you are struggling, that means you probably need to go back and watch some of the other videos. But in any case, I'm here. Send me an email, post some comments, let me know how I can help you guys out, and I'll see you in the next video.